Rejected bride waited 3 days until a cowboy's child asked, "Will you marry my daddy?" The frontier town of Dusthaven stood at the edge of the red desert like a stubborn memory from old Earth. Wooden buildings mixed with metal solar towers, and hovercarts moved slowly between dusty streets. People here lived simple lives, working hard to survive on the distant colony world of Red Mesa 7. Every month, a transport caravan arrived carrying supplies, new settlers, and sometimes brides arranged through the colonial match network. Life was harsh on the frontier, and many settlers believed that family was the strongest way to survive. On a quiet afternoon under twin suns, the latest caravan rolled into town. Most people gathered near the landing platform, curious as always. Children ran around laughing while traders prepared their stalls. Among the travelers stepping down from the wagon was a young woman wearing a plain white dress. Her name was Lena. She carried only a small suitcase and a hopeful smile. Lena had traveled across 3 star systems to meet the man who promised to marry her. They had exchanged letters through the colony network for months. His messages had been kind and respectful. He described a peaceful ranch and dreams of building a family together. But as the passengers were greeted one by one, no one stepped forward for Lena. She waited calmly at first, believing he might be late. Minutes turned into hours. The crowd slowly disappeared. The other brides were welcomed into homes, their laughter fading into the distance. The caravan leader approached Lena with an apologetic expression. "I'm sorry," he said gently. "We sent notice of arrival days ago." Lena nodded quietly. She understood what he meant without needing more words. The man who promised to marry her was not coming. The caravan could not stay longer. Supplies had schedules, and storms often moved quickly across the desert. Before leaving, the leader handed Lena a small food pack and wished her luck. Soon the platform became empty. The desert wind carried dust across the ground, and Lena stood alone beneath the wide sky. At first, she refused to believe she had been abandoned. She watched every road leading into town, expecting to see someone rushing toward her. Evening came, and lantern lights began to glow along the streets. No one arrived. A cafe owner nearby noticed her still standing and offered a cup of warm tea. Lena accepted gratefully. The woman asked a few careful questions but did not push too hard. Frontier people respected privacy. "Things don't always go as planned here," the cafe owner said softly. "But strong people find their way." Lena thanked her and returned to the platform. She decided she would wait one more night. The first night was cold. The desert temperature dropped quickly after sunset, and Lena wrapped herself in a thin blanket. She watched unfamiliar stars appear above her, brighter than any she had seen before. She thought about the long journey she had taken. She had left everything behind because she believed in the future described in those letters. Now she wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. Still, she refused to cry. Morning came with harsh sunlight and the distant hum of machines starting their daily work. Townspeople passed by, some offering polite smiles, others whispering quietly. Being rejected carried a strange weight in frontier culture. Some assumed it meant there was something wrong with her. Lena felt their curiosity but kept her head high. She spent the day looking for small jobs. The mechanic shop needed no help. The trading post said they were already full. Without local credits or connections, opportunities were limited. By evening, exhaustion filled her steps. She returned to the platform and sat on her suitcase again. Day 2 passed slower than the first. Dust storms formed on the horizon, turning the sky orange. Electric sand crackled softly as it moved across the ground, glowing faintly in the evening light. Lena watched the storm approach and wondered how long she could remain here without a plan. She considered leaving town, but she had nowhere to go. Meanwhile, several kilometers outside Dusthaven, a rancher named Caleb worked alone among wide fields of engineered grass. His ranch was known for raising bioadaptive cattle capable of surviving harsh alien climates. Caleb moved with quiet focus, repairing fences and checking sensor posts. He preferred silence. Years earlier, he had lost his wife during a mining accident, and since then he avoided crowded places whenever possible. His world centered around 2 things, the ranch and his young daughter, Rosie. Rosie was curious about everything. She loved exploring the edges of the property and asking endless questions about stars, animals, and people. That afternoon, she convinced Caleb to take her into town for supplies. Dusthaven felt loud compared to the ranch. Rosie held Caleb's hand as they walked past shops and food stalls. Her eyes noticed everything, especially people who seemed sad or alone. Near the landing platform, she saw Lena sitting quietly. The young woman looked tired but calm, watching the horizon like someone waiting for a miracle. Rosie stopped walking. "Daddy," she said, tugging his sleeve. "Who is she?" Caleb glanced briefly and shrugged. "Probably someone new." But Rosie continued staring. There was something about Lena's patience that caught her attention. Children often sensed emotions adults ignored. Caleb guided Rosie toward the supply store, but the image of the lonely bride stayed in the girl's mind. As evening approached, they finished shopping and returned toward their transport vehicle. Lena was still there. Rosie hesitated again. Without warning, she let go of Caleb's hand and walked straight toward the waiting woman. Caleb sighed and followed quickly, expecting an awkward moment. Rosie stopped in front of Lena and studied her face carefully. "Are you waiting for someone?" she asked. Lena blinked in surprise but smiled gently. "I was." Rosie thought for a moment, then asked with complete seriousness, "Will you marry my daddy?" The question hung in the air like a sudden gust of wind. Caleb froze behind her, his face turning red with embarrassment. "I'm so sorry," he said quickly. "She speaks her mind too much." But Lena laughed softly for the first time since arriving. The sound felt warm, like sunlight breaking through clouds. And without realizing it, something small but important shifted in all their lives at that moment. A simple question that would change the future none of them expected. Caleb felt heat rise to his face as Rosie's question echoed in the quiet air. "Will you marry my daddy?" He quickly stepped forward, placing a gentle hand on Rosie's shoulder. "That's enough, Rosie," he said softly, trying to sound calm despite his embarrassment. "You shouldn't ask strangers things like that." Lena smiled faintly. Instead of feeling awkward, she seemed amused by the child's honesty. She looked at Rosie kindly and then at Caleb. "It's all right," she said. "She didn't mean any harm." Rosie crossed her arms, serious as always. "You looked sad," she told Lena. "And my daddy needs someone who smiles more." Caleb sighed deeply. He wanted to disappear into the desert at that moment. But Lena laughed softly again, and the sound made the situation feel less heavy. "I appreciate the offer," Lena said gently, "but I think your daddy should decide that himself." Rosie nodded like she had just solved a puzzle. Caleb cleared his throat. "Are you staying in town?" he asked Lena, trying to shift the conversation. "For now," she answered. "Until I figure out what to do next." He noticed the small suitcase beside her and the tired look hidden behind her calm expression. Frontier life was not easy for someone alone. Caleb hesitated. He was not used to inviting strangers into his life. But something about Lena's quiet strength made him feel she was trustworthy. "If you need a place to stay for a few days," he said slowly, "my ranch has a spare room, just until you find work or make other plans." Lena blinked, surprised by the offer. "I don't want to cause trouble," she said. "It's not trouble," Caleb replied quickly, though part of him felt nervous. "Just temporary help," Rosie clapped happily. "See, I told you." Lena looked between them and finally nodded. "Thank you, I would be grateful." The ride to the ranch took nearly an hour. The hover truck moved across red plains where strange metallic plants reflected sunlight like mirrors. Far in the distance, mountains shaped like broken teeth rose against the sky. Lena watched quietly through the window. She had imagined frontier life many times, but seeing it with her own eyes felt different, more lonely, but also more beautiful. Caleb drove mostly in silence. He wasn't sure what to say. He had lived alone for years, and conversations felt unfamiliar. Rosie filled the silence with endless questions. "What's your favorite color? Do you like animals? Can you cook? Do you know stories from Earth?" Lena answered patiently, smiling more with every question. By the time they reached the ranch, the sky had turned golden. The ranch house stood on a wide hill overlooking fields of engineered grass that glowed faintly under sunlight. Old wooden structures mixed with advanced technology, solar panels, sensor towers, and hovering irrigation drones moving slowly above the fields. "It's beautiful," Lena said honestly. Caleb nodded. "It keeps us busy." Inside, the house felt warm and simple. Rosie showed Lena the spare room immediately, talking nonstop about everything she loved, her toys, her favorite books, and the stars she watched every night. After settling in, Lena insisted on helping prepare dinner. She moved comfortably around the kitchen, as if trying to prove she deserved the kindness she received. Caleb watched quietly from the doorway. He noticed how naturally she fit into the space, how Rosie laughed more than usual. Something inside him shifted, though he didn't want to admit it. During dinner, they spoke about small things, life on the colony, the weather, and the challenges of ranch work. Lena avoided speaking too much about her past, and Caleb respected that. That night, Lena stepped outside alone. The twin moons rose above the desert, painting silver lines across the fields. She felt both safe and uncertain. For the first time since arriving on the planet, she was not alone, yet she knew this was only temporary. The next morning began early. Caleb showed Lena around the ranch. She learned about the bioadaptive cattle, creatures designed to survive harsh climates. They moved slowly but gracefully, their hides reflecting soft shades of copper and gold. Lena listened carefully, asking thoughtful questions. Caleb found himself talking more than usual. As they walked near the edge of the property, Lena noticed small sensor posts blinking with faint blue light. "What do these monitor?" she asked. "Ground stability mostly," Caleb replied. "Old mining tunnels run beneath this land. Sensors warn us if anything shifts." Lena knelt beside one device, studying the display. "The signal pattern looks unusual," she said quietly. Caleb shrugged. "Probably just interference, happens sometimes." But Lena felt a strange curiosity. The signal pulsed in regular intervals, almost like a heartbeat. Later that day, Rosie convinced Lena to help repair an old windmill. The work was simple but fun, and laughter filled the air again. For the first time in years, Caleb felt his ranch didn't seem so empty. Evening brought a sudden change. One of the sensors began beeping loudly. Caleb rushed outside while Lena followed. The device displayed rising energy readings beneath the ground. "That's new," Caleb muttered. Lena studied the screen. "This isn't random interference," she said slowly. "It looks like a coded signal." Caleb frowned. "From what?" She shook her head. "I'm not sure yet." The ground vibrated faintly under their feet, barely noticeable but enough to raise concern. Rosie stood at the door watching them, her eyes wide with excitement instead of fear. "What's happening?" she asked. Caleb forced a calm smile. "Probably nothing," but deep inside he wasn't certain. That night, Lena worked with the sensor system inside the workshop. Her hands moved confidently over the controls, revealing skills far beyond ordinary settlers. Caleb watched quietly. "You're not just a bride looking for a home," he said finally. Lena paused. "No," she admitted softly. "I used to work as a systems analyst for colony networks. I wanted a simpler life." "Why leave that behind?" She looked away toward the dark window. "Sometimes starting over feels easier than carrying old memories." Caleb nodded. He understood that feeling better than most. As the night grew quiet, the signal beneath the ranch pulsed again, stronger this time. Neither of them realized that something ancient was waking below the soil. And as the desert wind moved gently across the fields, the ranch that once felt ordinary began to change. The strange signal beneath the ranch did not stop. All night, the sensor system blinked with quiet pulses of blue light. The rhythm felt steady, almost alive, like something breathing under the ground. Lena barely slept. She sat in Caleb's workshop studying the data while the desert wind moved softly outside. Numbers scrolled across the screen in repeating patterns. It was not random. Caleb entered the workshop early in the morning carrying 2 cups of hot coffee. He looked tired but calm. "Any change?" he asked. Lena nodded slowly. "The signal is getting stronger." "And it's definitely structured. Someone or something created it." Caleb frowned. "Old mining machines, maybe?" She shook her head. "No, this is too advanced, and the pattern, it feels like communication." He didn't answer right away. Frontier settlers learned to avoid trouble whenever possible. Strange technology often meant danger. Outside, Rosie was already awake, feeding small robotic chickens near the barn. She noticed the serious expressions on their faces and walked toward them. "Is the ground still talking?" she asked. Caleb smiled weakly. "Something like that." Rosie looked excited instead of worried. "Maybe it's a secret treasure." Lena laughed gently. "Or maybe just an old system that needs fixing." But deep down, she felt something bigger was happening. Later that morning, they followed the signal to a hill near the edge of the property. The ground there looked normal, red soil mixed with scattered stones, but the sensor readings spiked sharply. Lena used a handheld scanner while Caleb cleared small rocks away. The device beeped loudly. "There's something metal below," Lena said. Caleb paused. "How deep?" "Maybe 5 meters." He scratched his beard thoughtfully. This land used to be part of an old exploration zone before settlers arrived, could be leftover equipment. They began digging carefully using a small excavation drone. Dust rose into the air as layers of soil slowly disappeared. After an hour, the drone struck something solid. A smooth surface emerged, not rusted metal like mining tools, but dark silver material that reflected light strangely. Lena's eyes widened. This isn't human technology. The surface had faint, glowing lines running across it, forming patterns like flowing rivers. As soon as the sunlight touched it, the lines pulsed brighter. The ground vibrated softly. Rosie gasped with excitement. "It's alive!" Caleb stepped back instinctively. "Maybe we should stop." But before they could move away, a faint hum filled the air. The structure beneath them responded to their presence, projecting a small holographic shape above the surface. It looked like a rotating sphere made of light. Lena stared at it, fascinated. "This is ancient," she whispered. "Maybe alien." Caleb felt tension in his chest. Alien technology was rare but valuable, and where there was value, trouble followed. "We need to report this," he said. Lena hesitated. "Yes, but carefully." News traveled fast in frontier towns. Within 2 days, a corporate salvage group arrived at the ranch. Their sleek ship landed near the fields, breaking the peaceful silence. 3 officials stepped out wearing clean uniforms and confident expressions. The leader introduced himself as Director Hale. He spoke politely but with clear authority. "We received reports of a technological discovery," he said. "By colonial law, all unidentified alien structures fall under corporate study." Caleb crossed his arms. "This is my land." "And we respect that," Hale replied smoothly. "You will be compensated generously." Lena watched carefully. Something about the man felt cold. They allowed the team to scan the structure. Machines surrounded the site, projecting beams of light into the ground. Lena studied their data from a distance. The readings showed rising energy levels. "They don't understand what they're dealing with," she whispered to Caleb. "What do you mean?" "The system isn't just a machine. It's reacting to us, to emotions, movement, maybe even proximity. Removing it could be dangerous." Caleb's expression hardened. "Then we stop them." But stopping a corporate team was not easy. That night, Lena worked alone in the workshop again, analyzing deeper layers of the signal. The repeating patterns slowly revealed hidden codes. It was not a weapon or mining tool. It was a stabilizer. An ancient environmental system designed to protect the planet's atmosphere and balance climate changes. If damaged, the surrounding region could face severe storms or ecosystem collapse. Lena's heart raced. She rushed outside to find Caleb. "We can't let them take it," she said urgently. "This thing is protecting the land." Before he could respond, a sudden tremor shook the ground. Lights flashed across the hill as the alien structure activated more fully. Holographic shapes rose into the air like glowing towers. The corporate team cheered, believing they had triggered a valuable discovery, but Lena noticed warning symbols appearing within the hologram. "It's unstable," she said. Wind began swirling violently. Dust lifted into the air, forming a spinning wall around the ranch. Rosie ran toward them, eyes wide. Caleb picked her up quickly. "What's happening?" she asked. "Stay close," he said gently. Lena realized the system required interaction, not forceful control. She approached slowly, placing her hand near the glowing surface. The light responded immediately, changing color. "It's reading me," she said. Caleb stepped beside her, uncertain but trusting. The hologram shifted again, stabilizing slightly. "It needs cooperation," Lena said, "not commands." Together, they focused on calming movements, following the pattern she interpreted from the signal. Slowly, the violent winds weakened. The corporate team watched in shock as 2 ordinary settlers succeeded where advanced machines failed. After several minutes, the system returned to a stable glow. Silence filled the air. Caleb looked at Lena with new understanding. She wasn't just a guest at his ranch. She was someone brave, intelligent, and strong. Rosie hugged Lena tightly. "You saved us." Lena smiled but felt heavy inside. The corporate director approached again, his polite smile now sharper. "We will continue tomorrow," he said. "This discovery belongs to science." As night fell, Lena stood alone near the glowing structure. She feared what might happen if powerful people tried to control something meant to protect, not exploit. And for the first time since arriving on Red Mesa 7, she realized leaving the ranch might not be an option anymore. Because this place, and the people within it, had already become part of her story. Morning arrived slowly over the ranch. Soft light spread across the red fields while the alien structure on the hill continued to glow faintly. The air felt different, heavier with tension. Lena stood outside watching the sunrise, her thoughts restless. She knew the corporate team would return soon. Behind her, the ranch house door opened quietly. Caleb stepped outside holding 2 cups of coffee. He handed one to her without speaking. For a moment, they simply stood side by side, watching the horizon. "You didn't sleep," Caleb said finally. "Neither did you," Lena replied gently. He gave a small smile. "Hard to relax when something ancient is waking under your land," Lena nodded. "It's more than just technology. It reacts to people, to intention. If they try to force control, it could become unstable again." Caleb stared toward the hill, thinking carefully. "Then we don't let them force it." The words came naturally, but Lena heard something deeper inside them, trust. Before she could respond, the sound of engines filled the air. The corporate ship powered up again, and vehicles moved toward the excavation site. Director Hale approached with confident steps. "Good morning," he said politely. "Our team will begin extraction today." Caleb's jaw tightened. "You're not taking anything until we understand what it does." Hale smiled calmly. "Mr. Caleb, discoveries like this belong to progress. Your cooperation will ensure fair compensation." Lena stepped forward. "Removing it could damage the planetary environment. It's a stabilizer system. We need more time." Hale's expression cooled slightly. "Your concerns are noted, but our scientists are trained professionals." Behind him, machines began activating, projecting scanning beams toward the structure. Lena felt a wave of unease. "They don't understand," she whispered. As the machines powered up, the glowing lines on the alien surface flickered rapidly. The hum grew louder, and the ground vibrated beneath their feet. Rosie watched from near the house, holding a small stuffed toy tightly. The sky darkened unexpectedly as clouds gathered above the ranch. Wind rose quickly, swirling dust into the air. "It's reacting again," Lena said urgently. Hale gestured to his team. "Continue operations." Large mechanical arms extended toward the structure. The moment they touched it, a pulse of bright light exploded outward. Everyone stumbled back. The holographic towers rose again, larger than before. Strange symbols moved through the air like flowing water. Wind turned into a powerful storm. Caleb ran toward Rosie, lifting her into his arms. "We need to stop this," Lena shouted over the noise. Hale looked uncertain now, but pride kept him from stepping back. "This is just a defensive response," he insisted. The ground shook harder. Lena realized the system wasn't just reacting to machines, it was responding to conflict itself. She moved toward the glowing surface again. "Caleb," she called, "come with me." Without hesitation, he joined her. Together they stood before the structure. Lena closed her eyes briefly, remembering the patterns she had studied. She placed her hand gently against the glowing lines. Caleb did the same. The light softened immediately. The violent wind slowed slightly, as if listening. "It recognizes cooperation," Lena said softly. "It responds to unity." Caleb focused on staying calm, thinking about protecting his home, his daughter, and the land that had given him purpose. The hologram shifted, changing from sharp angles to smooth, flowing shapes. The storm weakened. Hale watched in disbelief. His machines powered down automatically, unable to compete with the system's natural response. After several minutes, silence returned. Dust settled slowly onto the ground. The alien structure glowed peacefully again. Hale approached cautiously, his confidence gone. "It appears you have a unique connection with it," he admitted. Lena shook her head. "Not me alone, it reacts to intention. You can't control it through force." After a long pause, Hale sighed. "We will withdraw for now," he said reluctantly, "until further study is approved." Caleb crossed his arms. "That's probably best." The corporate team packed their equipment and left the ranch by afternoon. When their ship disappeared into the sky, a deep quiet returned. Rosie ran toward Lena and hugged her tightly. "You saved it again." Lena smiled warmly, holding the child close. "I think we saved it together." Life slowly returned to normal. The alien system remained active but calm, its glow blending into the landscape like a silent guardian. Scientists from the colony later confirmed Lena's discovery. The structure stabilized environmental conditions, protecting nearby ecosystems. The town's attitude toward Lena changed completely. People who once whispered now greeted her with respect. But what mattered most to her was not recognition. It was the feeling of belonging. One evening, as the sun set behind distant mountains, Caleb and Lena walked toward the canyon overlook while Rosie ran ahead collecting glowing stones. The air felt peaceful. "I never expected any of this," Caleb said quietly. "Neither did I," Lena admitted. He hesitated before speaking again. "When Rosie asked you that question, I thought it was just childish imagination." Lena smiled gently. "Children see things adults are afraid to see." Caleb looked at her seriously. "I've been afraid for a long time. After losing my wife, I closed myself off. I didn't think I could open my heart again." Lena listened silently. "But things changed when you came here," he continued. "The ranch feels alive again." "Rosie laughs more, and he paused, searching for words. "I don't want you to leave." The wind moved softly through the grass. Lena felt emotion rise inside her, but it wasn't sadness anymore. "I stayed because I wanted to," she said softly, "not because I needed a place." "This feels like home." Caleb smiled, a real, warm smile she had rarely seen. He took a slow breath. "Then stay," he said, "not as a guest, as family." Rosie turned around suddenly as if she sensed the moment. She ran toward them excitedly. "Did he ask?" she demanded. Lena laughed, surprised. "You already knew," Rosie nodded proudly. "Of course." Caleb shook his head with amusement. Under the glow of twin moons, Lena felt something she had almost forgotten, hope without fear. She had arrived as a rejected bride, abandoned and alone. But she had found something stronger than promises written in letters. She had found a home chosen by heart. As the alien structure hummed softly beneath the land, the ranch stood stronger than ever, not because of technology or luck, but because of connection. And for the first time since arriving on Red Mesa 7, Lena knew she was exactly where she was meant to be.